Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Good job, Brian. All right. It is Tuesday. We're just waiting on Elliotte Friedman. It is Monday, actually. I've done that twice today, where I've called today Tuesday. It's actually Monday. All of our guests today, including Elliotte, hopefully standing by shortly, are sponsored by Basant Motors. Basant has taken Santa's job and are bringing the gifts. Get rates from 4.99%, gifts with vehicle purchase and much more. Learn more at Basant Motors. That's BASANT Motors.com. Have we got Elliotte? Outstanding. Joining us now from Hockey Night in Canada, 32 Thoughts podcast, stirring the hornet's nest around Vancouver, Elliotte Friedman. Elliotte, thanks for doing this, sir.
How are you? Guys. How you guys doing?
Very well. Very well. I don't know where to begin here, but let's start with the Buffalo Sabres and Dylan Cousins, all sorts of rumors surrounding him, Bowen Byram as well. How serious is that talk, and are the Canucks involved?
Look, I think you'd be naive to think that. Look, I don't know as much about Byram, to be honest.
Okay.
But I have reported Cousins, and I do think there are a lot of teams calling the Buffalo Sabres about Dylan Cousins. I really, I've been open about it, and nobody has disputed that to me, Don. Mm. And I think you'd have to be insane to believe that the Buffalo Sabres, or if the Buffalo Sabres ever were to move him, that the Vancouver Canucks wouldn't be among 31 other teams calling and saying, okay, 23-year-old right shot center, scored 30 goals a couple years ago. And as I was reminded by my podcast partner, Kyle Bukauskas, played in the BCHL a few years ago. Mm. So he's a Western Canadian kid. Of course, the Canucks would be at least calling to see what the possibilities were. And everybody is. Like, I think the amount of teams that have called on Cousins has been very high. But obviously, to this point, the Sabres have not done anything with it.
29th overall, Buffalo Sabres. I know that's nothing new, but there's so many good players, so many young, talented players. Did you expect more from that franchise this time around?
100%. You know, I mean, look, you take a look at the Atlantic Division. It's been pretty boring the last few years. It's some combination of Toronto, Boston, Florida, Tampa Bay. They always make the playoffs. They always finish 1, 2, 3, 4 in that order. And you've got Ottawa can't get in, Buffalo can't get in, Detroit can't get in, and now Montreal is going through their rebuild. So, I mean, I think we've all thought better about Detroit at times. I know we've all thought better about Buffalo and Ottawa at times. Like, honestly, Don, people say to me, what do you think's wrong with Buffalo? I mean, you know, they changed the owner, and he's done everything to try to win. They paid players, younger and older. They've gone with, quote-unquote, hockey people as the managers. They've gone with Kevin Adams, who's a bit of a different background, as the manager, even though he played in the NHL. They've changed coaches. They've brought in veterans. They've taken out veterans. Like, Don, like, I don't have good answers here anymore. All I know is it's one of the best fan bases in the NHL, and they deserve a lot better.
Elliotte, you saw Jim Rutherford on Hockey Night in Canada post-game Canucks Bruins. What were your thoughts? And like, are you like some people and think that he's just waiting and itching to pull off a big deal, Elliotte?
Well, last time he was on, he was spitting a lot more fire, Rick. Like that, he was. You know, when I saw the result of the game, you know, they played very poorly on Saturday night. Everybody knows that. I think we were all kind of wondering to see what kind of mood he'd be in. And I think he just decided this time he wasn't going to do that again, no matter what happened. But the thing is, like, the thing about Rutherford is, and we're very lucky in media that he's around, he gives us clues, right? Like, he doesn't say nothing. Mm. He gives us clues. And I think, Rick, like, the toughest thing, and Rick, you know this, because I honestly think you're the most. I hate to blow smoke on you while I'm on this show, but I think you're the most plugged in guy there in the market, and you know how challenging it can be. Because on one hand, I think they just got Demko back, they just got Miller back, they want to see how this goes, but on the other hand, he's got a wish list. He's like Santa. I've got my list. I'm checking it twice. I'm going to find out who's going to be naughty and nice. And if he can do that, he will do it. So I just think he's been, and also the other thing about Rutherford you have to remember is that he likes to go early. He does not like to wait. He likes to go early. He sees what he wants and he goes and gets it. So I think that's the challenge with Vancouver is, one, I think he wants to see what his team looks like with Demko and Miller. But on the other, he's the kind of guy, and Alvin, I think, is very much cut from the same cloth. They will strike at any time.
What about Besser, his comments about the contract? What do you glean from that? And they're obviously not close, but Besser and his future in Vancouver.
I thought those comments were benign. I just think that for Rutherford, I think that that's just, we'll take care of it as we take care of it. I don't think there's much to read into those. I still think there's interest from the team. I still think there's interest from the player. There's always a risk you take when you're the team and you say, let's see how it goes this year. But I think the Vancouver Canucks know if they want to keep Brock Besser, they're going to have to pay him. And if it gets to that point, I think they will.
I got to go back. I got to go back, Elliotte, to Cousins and Byram. You set the city on fire this morning. No one else does it like you. But was that you spitballing or you hearing like Pettersson for Cousins and Byram? Like what was it this morning when you on your great podcast announced that? That
was spitballing.
Okay.
I think this. Look, do I think the Canucks have talked to Buffalo? Yeah, I do. Do I think the Sabres have talked to the Canucks? Yes, I do. Do I think that that's the exact combination that they've talked about? No, I don't know that. But, look, I think the two teams have talked to each other. I think the Sabres have players the Canucks like. You've talked about their interest, that they like. Byram's the kind of guy that they would like before, Rick. And I think I think the Canucks have players like the Sabres. It sounds crazy to say because they've lost 10 in a row, but they don't want to make their team worse. They look at their team on paper and they think their team should be better than it is. So if you're going to make a deal with them and you're going to take a good player off their roster, what's the match? And so I think that's what I'm doing there. I do think that the two teams have talked. I do think they've talked about players. To me, that's just me putting an idea together. But I can't say that that's something that's been on the table for both those sides. But I can say this. I could see Vancouver being interested in those players, and I could see Buffalo being interested in Pettersson. If all those players would be available, there would be, with Cousins, there'd be a lineup of teams who want those guys.
Yeah.
Elliotte, and it's very obvious, and you know what? It's very obvious, guys. All you have to do is listen to Tocchet and to Rutherford.
Yep.
There's something about their mix right now that they don't like.
Bingo. Bingo.
Elliotte, JT Miller returns to the Canucks last week, and I believe you said, I'm paraphrasing here, and I apologize for that, but you said something to the effect of, I think he has to bend, and other guys have to bend. When it comes to JT Miller and the whole group, how would you describe, from what you know, the situation in the Canucks dressing room?
Well, I think that Miller is kind of a unique personality in that room. He's very demanding of himself and others. And the thing is, and you've got sometimes I think to me, it's I always used to compare Messier and Sundin. Messier was the fiery guy. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew what he felt all the time. And I know it didn't go well in Vancouver with Messier, but generally he's considered a very good leader. Okay. And Sundin was always quiet. He was always placid. He never said stuff publicly. But one thing I learned about him privately is that he burned to win. Burned to win. And I think that sometimes we look at people and we say, oh, well, they don't show emotion outwardly, so they don't really care about winning. And I have learned that kind of thinking is stupid. It is 100% stupid. So I don't think guys like Hughes especially, just because Hughes doesn't come out breathing fire like Miller does sometimes, it doesn't mean he doesn't want to win. He cares, obviously, by the way he plays and the way he trains, he cares a lot about winning. But Miller is a unique personality in the Canucks room, is that he'll really push and he'll really press buttons. However, the thing about that is you can do it up to a point, and then people say, okay, there's a limit. And I think that what the Canucks are all working on together is, okay, JT, you can be demanding, but there's got to be a limit, and some other players have to be more accepting of his demanding nature. There's a line, and you don't let him go past it, but you have to understand that he is trying to make us all better. And I think that's what this is all working on. Like, where is the line? How do we establish the line of what is acceptable to demand of other players and what other players have to accept of in terms of being what's demanded of them? And the thing is, like, the thing I thought was really interesting was, I saw a scrum last week, and you know what? I know some of the Vancouver reporters took some heat because they didn't press him on it. I think that's BS. I would like to stand up for the Vancouver reporters there. First time a guy comes back, he wants to establish some ground rules. I don't think there's anything wrong with the reporters there saying, okay, I think that's all right. But like in the game when Hughes got cross-checked at the end of the second period, like Miller was Miller. He was the first guy who went to his aid, and I thought that was a really good sign. You can be calm, but on the ice, you can go into your other personality.
Just so you know, things didn't go all that well for Matt Sundin in Vancouver either, Elliotte.
I got to tell you, it's such a shame because, I took me too long to appreciate his greatness in Toronto. And since he's been gone, I've even realized even more what an incredible personality he was.
And one more, Elliotte, if you don't mind. How serious?
No, I don't mind at all.
How serious are the? Thank you for that. How serious are the Canucks about moving on from Vincent Desharnais?
Yeah, I just think it just hasn't worked, unfortunately. So they're trying to see what the options are out there, and they're willing to consider a few things. I think one of the things too is with the group of players that keeps going up and down. I think the Canucks, well, some of it's obviously for cap reasons, Don, but I think they're also trying to be eventually you get to a point where you want to be a bit more consistent with who's in and who's out, right? Like you reach a point where players want to know, and I think even the coaches want to know, and the team wants to know you need to have depth, but what's our more consistent lineup? And I think they would like to get to that.
Elliotte, above and beyond, all the best this season. Best of the season to you, Elliotte. We appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to all the great hockey fans of Canuck Nation. I will be coming out again this year for the telethon. Okay. They invited me back. So I always say this, the Canuck Nation, as much as we poke fun at each other, incredibly generous people, and I'm always appreciative.
Some people wondering if you have a robe on, Elliotte.
No, you know what it is? It's one of those like jackets that look like the sheepskin, like it's like the faux sheepskin. Are you kidding me? I got to tell you something. I would never come on this show in a robe because what if we had the malfunction? It would just be, we could not do that.
Please do. One of these days, okay? Not the malfunction part, the robe part.
Just the robe part? Okay, no problem.
Right.
We'll do it sometime.
Thanks for this, Elliotte. Appreciate it.
Take care.